Hi, welcome to the Spiritual Connection Show. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn. So I'm a shamanic practitioner, I'm an energy healer, I'm a transformation coach, and I'm also the spiritual head of the Transformation Center CT, which is located in Westport, Connecticut. Yeah, so at the center right now, we're not doing anything in person because it's still, towards the end of up here, the social distancing and everything. But we are offering some things online, like every month, maybe sometimes twice a month. We have satsang online. You're welcome to join us for that. Everybody's welcome. Hopefully pretty soon we'll start back up with our shamanic clinics, which prior to March, we've been having once a month where you can just come and get an introduction to shamanism. And you can read more about that on our website, which is transformationcenterct.com. All right, so we're happy that you're joining us tonight for the Spiritual Connection Show. As you know, connection is a very important value of mine. And so the point of the show is really for us to connect with each other and also allow us to connect more fully with our own spiritual selves. And we do that through the guests that I have each week who talk about their own spiritual journey. Lots for us to learn from every one of them and, just see what's in it for you. And we are here to help you, both all of my guests and myself. Anytime you need anything, just reach out to either one of us. And in a minute, I'm going to introduce our guest, and then I'm going to show his contact info so you can make note of that now. And then I'll show it again towards the end of the show so you can see it then as well. So I'm very honored to have Dr. John Crawford, also known as Shripati J, on the show tonight. Welcome to the show, Shripati.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm just going to read a little bit about you for our audience because they don't know you. I think I've known you for a few years now, maybe 3 years. Yeah, I think so. All right, so Dr. John Crawford, or Shripati J, is a healer, he's a teacher, and a coach. He's a chiropractor and a licensed acupuncturist in his upstate New York office, where he teaches authentic Shaolin Kung Fu. And he's also a certified Reiki master, a shamanic practitioner, EMT, and empowerment coach. He does a lot of things. And listen to this, his training. He's trained in advanced metaphysics, spiritual alchemy, leadership, communication, hypnotherapy, yogic principles, and neuro-linguistic programming, which is an excellent tool. Yeah. And, Dr. Crawford, what I love about him, yes, is everything, but the fact that he does all of this with humor and compassion, and he's just an inspiring person to know and to love. So I know you will join me in enjoying that. And I just want to mention one thing before I put his slide up. His Facebook community he created a few years ago, and believe it or not, he has over 120,000 followers. Okay, I aspire to that. And wake up to your mind. And I'm just going to share the screen real quick before we get started with that. And here it is. So this is his natural health chiropractic and acupuncture clinic up in Rochester area. And so it's rochesterchiro.com. You can reach him at that email address. And then his Facebook pages, the group is Wake Up to Your Mind. And I love that logo. Yeah. He'll tell you more about that when we're talking. And the other Facebook page called The Path to Your Highest Self, that's his inspirational coaching page. Yeah. So, you can check both of those out. Yes. And again, we'll share it more at the end. So again, welcome to the show, Shripati. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored. When you asked, I was just so humbled. I've been watching your show for, knowing you for years and watching your show and just seeing the incredible guests you have and the people that you attract. So when you asked me, I said, heck yeah, this sounds like so much fun. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Yeah, So tell us, the first question that I like to ask my guest is just tell us a little bit about your unique spiritual journey, how you kind of got to this place and all the things that you're up to right now.
Sure. Yeah. So I know for me there, when I was growing up, my mom went to church and we had a community and I felt the community aspect, but I wasn't particularly spiritual in any sense of the word. I was involved and I was, singing and an elder in the group. And so I was involved in the business side of the church too, even as a high schooler, but I didn't really get very spiritual until later. So I remember there was a particular day, like November 17th, 2010. It's like locked in my mind. So on November 17th, 2010, I had a realization, and I use that word very carefully because it was something that was realized. And I remember I was hanging out with some of my friends, like had a bunch of good friends from like my frat and undergrad, and I had been studying Kung Fu at that time for a couple months, and I remember really starting to investigate my body and my mind and the connections therein. And I remember saying, oh, like how do I move my body better? And I was like, oh, duh, I'm taking a neurology course. Like, I know it's your mind. That's simple. And so I remember saying, oh, okay, I'll just think about it and I'll move my body better. We use it all the time in a martial example in Kung Fu, of course. Yeah. And I remember on this particular date, on November 17, 2010, I started investigating how do I move my mind better? And it manifested, and we were all hanging out, and I remember this one guy kept bothering me. He was kind of the guy that just, we always have that one person that sort of irks us and irritates us. And I just remember being like, just tired of him, just tired of his stuff, and tired of his crap. And we're all about to go bowling or something or grabbing some drinks. And I kind of get crammed in the car, and I'm a large human, so I'm jammed in the back seat of this car. And I could just feel the resistance. And I just said, you know what, I'm just going to go home. Like, I'll see you guys later. Like, and I just kind of popped out, did the Irish goodbye, and just kind of ran into my apartment, which was nearby. I was like 2 blocks away. I just kind of joyfully ran. And I got back to my apartment and I flipped open a book. And one of the books, inside of the book was a meditation. And it was essentially anchor a white light down into your body. And as I did, I remember seeing like a fleck of dust on the computer screen. And I had this realization wash over me. And it was this beautiful peace. I describe it as like kind of looking beyond the veil. Like I didn't associate to John Crawford, whoever this human flesh body is. I started seeing deeper and I started feeling into deeper. And I said, what if anytime someone like walked into a room, there was an entire congregation, everyone looked at them and said, hey, is this person good? Like it was a sort of this mutual, loving, beautiful society that really made sure everyone was okay. And I was like, this is fascinating. I was like, what is that? I found out later with some of my research and investigation, it's like an enlightened society or a Shambhala society. And I remember feeling like this mantra stuck with me from that day. And it was less me, more we. Less me, more we. And that started everything for me. I remember I used to be kind of like a bit more self-centered, a bit more selfish. I started looking at how to take care of the collective we in that context. And so I started reading Hinduism. I started reading about Buddhism. And you mentioned that my inspirational page, and there's a lot of humor and fun stuff. I loved Tibetan Buddhism because they have the compassion, but they also have the humor. And I like laughing. It's one of my favorites. So that's how it all started. Then I got into Reiki. I studied Kundalini Yoga. I continued my Kung Fu. And then about 2 years ago, I met formal teachers and got on a formal path related to spirituality. And I got to meet you wonderful people.
Yeah. That was awesome. So that's so interesting because you just kind of basically stumbled upon it on your own and like kind of took it in a way that spoke to you.
Yeah. And it was neat because as I started, unfolding that beautiful path that I described the months after that, I remember finding a book, and I just shared this with someone, so it's fresh in my mind. But I found a book that I had saved when I was little. It was called The Mountains of Tibet by Mordecai Gurdjieff. And he writes, basically, it's essentially the Tibetan Book of the Dead for children. So it's this lovely story of this woodworker that lives his life. And then he goes back into cosmos and after he passes, he chooses to come back in the spoiler alert, he goes back to the same village, and it's this beautiful circular story. And I had saved it as a little child, and I remember finding it, and I was like, you know what, I should probably read the adult version of this bad boy. Like, you know, I registered that it was like something special, you know. And so that book still sort of stays in my mind as sort of this catalyst that started even at a younger age. And when I was little, I was always interested in martial arts, and I was drawing yin yangs and stuff. And so I always kind of felt internally Asian, as I say. So I had this deeper sort of respect and reverence for the Eastern philosophies. And that sort of started that.
Yeah, so it really wasn't an accident. We know there's no such thing, right?
Perhaps not. Yeah, the seeds were planted, as they say.
A little clue of what was to come.
Exactly. And it was interesting. It was at that time that I started training again, and I remember in martial arts, and I remember knowing I always wanted to get back into it. I always wanted to study meditation formally. I always wanted to learn. And at that time, I started learning mindfulness, and we started a mindfulness club on my near chiropractic college campus. Because there's some times where you could do everything under the sun for people with chronic pain, and they don't get fixed. You know, they still experience subjective pain. No matter what. And so what studies have suggested, and this is what we modeled off of, is Dr. John Kabat-Zinn has offered this to his patients, is mindfulness gives them ability to just feel the breath for that, 2 seconds perhaps. And then they don't feel the chronic foot pain that's been there for decades or something. So I remember really digging into it around then and starting that mindfulness club and going deeper. I was like, there's something to this stuff. Like, what is this?
Yeah, it's so interesting how it's all connected, you know, the mind, the body, of course, the spirit. So that was like so obvious at that time, I guess.
Yeah.
You realized it. Yeah, so you were already into the chiropractic work before. We're talking like how far back did that go?
Yeah, so I think it was right as I graduated my undergrad at 2010. So about 10 years, 10 years ago now. That's crazy. Yeah, and that was when I started training Kung Fu. And then right around then is when I started, November 17th, 2010 was when it all sort of initiated and catalyzed. And I was like, kept following that. And I had experimented with plant medicines and entheogens or powerful spiritual medicines. And I felt something. And I was like, there's something to that. And I want to feel it without sort of the use of medicines. I said, there's got to be a way to get to these higher consciousness states without using the plant medicines, which I have complete respect for. I just also said, you know what, there's got to be a way to like meditate and feel this higher vibration. And it was lovely as I started to explore. Yeah.
Wow. Because like you, it's like, I believe that, we have what we need inside of us, and it's just a matter of accessing it. Right.
Precisely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why it was so marvelous as I kept going and learning. I found metta meditation really spoke to me. And metta meditation, for those who aren't aware, is when you send yourself initially loving kindness, and you just really imbibe and embrace yourself with loving kindness at the spiritual level. And then you start to send it to someone you really love and respect. And then you go to someone you know and you like, but you just kind of know them well, nothing too close, but you just like them. And then you go to someone, maybe perhaps like the cashier you see when you get your coffee every day or something, someone you kind of know, but not well at all. And then the next step is to do it with someone that sort of irks you, really bothers you, you just sort of rubs you the wrong way. And then the last step is to send that loving kindness to all sentient beings. And I started to experience something. I did that for 30 minutes every single day for about a year and a half. And I was like, there'd be traffic jams, and I'd be like, it's fine. this guy's probably late. Like, it's cool. Like, I got really clear on it. I was like, yeah, it's fine. No big deal. And it, sometimes I think back on those times and I'm like, wow, I was like this superhuman energy where I just didn't let anything faze me. And perhaps I was sort of dismissing things too. I wasn't as present with all that I experienced. But at the same time, there was a peaceful harmony that's sort of arising within. And like you said, it does come, I think, from within.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So what name did you give that meditation?
Yeah, so that's Metta, M-E-T-T.
Metta meditation.
Yeah. Yep.
So I guess it's the same thing as a loving kindness meditation.
Same, it's exactly the definition.
Because it does sound like it, because I've done that, but it was called a loving kindness meditation.
That's right.
I'm glad you reminded me about that because it's been a while. And I think it's really, really helpful.
Oh God, so helpful. I remember one of my favorites is like, in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. And you can just say that, gladness and in safety,
Yeah.
may all beings be at ease. And it starts to roll and be natural. And of course they say, if it doesn't feel natural to give it to those, that loving kindness to those that are kind of bothering you, just stick to yourself. Just work on bringing that love and light to yourself. And I remember the one that really stuck with me that I'll share, if you don't mind, is, may I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. And like, if you recant that, for 30 minutes, like something starts to stick. I know in our particular lineage that we study, we talk about the mantra abracadabra. I speak that which I create. And I believe that deeply. As you recant and recite and feel, you start to create.
Yeah, because you create the neural pathways in our brains.
That's right.
Cause us to experience it and then incorporate it and start to believe it and embody it, really.
Yes, I know. And it's fascinating too. You mentioned that. I'm in a course right now. I'm taking an online course to get a degree, a master's in transpersonal psychology. And so what that is how, and it's with a specialty in applied spirituality. So essentially we're looking at meditation. I'm looking at dreams. Like I'm taking courses on some of the stuff that I was like sort of avoiding other courses to study. When I had one of my favorite docs and teachers in school, she goes, "Do you just want to study this?" Like she kind of looked at me. She's like, "You're neglecting your neurology courses here." And I was like, you know what? I kind of do. I remember I was like spending till 4 a.m. studying, martial arts online, just following one Wikipedia link into another. But I'm grateful because I feel so aligned with this particular online course I just signed up for. And we talk about the neurological impact of mindfulness. Like if someone's sitting down and doing 20 minutes of mindfulness every day, in about 6 months, they're forever, forever changed neurologically. The receptors and the neurological parts of our brain that receive love and work with peace and work with calmness, they're forever changed. And it's fascinating. I think there's a lot of like beautiful research coming out now too regarding that, as we see.
Yeah, it's so beneficial. And I'm really glad you brought this up because the meditation that I did recently, somebody led it down here. I think she's at Westport. Diane Nickelberg is her name. And she recorded it. So I'm pretty sure that I'll talk to her about it. But it would be nice to introduce somebody to it that way, to do it with them, or just, we can teach it to everybody, really.
I know. I use the example with my patients now. It's like, who can't use a little stress release right now? Like, are you feeling some stress? I say to them, kind of half joking, half sarcastic, because it's like, it's quite obvious that we're all experiencing some tension in today's day and age. And there's ways to transmute it. I see it in my patients. Acupuncture, like I come back in the room and people think needles, like nurses' needles, they think needles like that. But it's funny, I come back there, you can fit like 50 acupuncture needles inside of a nurse's needle, so they're whisker thin. But I come back and people are kind of like, I open my head in the door and they're taking naps and they're calm. And I have this feeling that like healing happens when we're in that parasympathetic sort of rest and digest sort of state. And that is neurologically linked. Like we know that when we're sort of, fight or flight, we're not allowing those like the cortisol and homocysteine, these stress hormones come up and they don't allow us to just chill. So it's like in today's climate, I believe that this is very powerful, very, very not only supportive and powerful, but just apt. We need that these days.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Yeah, I had some acupuncture a couple of weeks ago and it's great. I love it.
Yeah, people get blissed out. They're coming calm, and sometimes I'm like, "Are you good to drive? Like, are you good?" Like,
I always fall asleep. It's great.
Every time. Like, I'm half meditative, half asleep state. Like, they come back in, I'm like, "Yeah, it's cool, we're fine."
Yeah, right. That's a good description. For people who aren't that familiar with acupuncture, can you just talk a little bit about it, like what the benefits are, other than what you've shared?
Yeah. Love to. And this is what I spend a lot of my time doing, explaining some of these beautiful Eastern, therapies and healings and philosophies. Acupuncture occurs to me as really encouraging energetic flow. when we introduce like a needle into the body, we're saying, hey, body, bring energy, bring intention and energy to this region. Now, they've mapped out, the Chinese have done this for a long, long time, like 6,000 years, 2,000 written down. Like I can go to a library and get a 2,000-year-old textbook. And they didn't just take like this guy's knowledge or this woman's knowledge. They started arguing with them over time. So the volumes increase over 2,000 years because they're like, no, don't do this, don't do that, do that. So they get they're very powerful scientific in their studies of it. And so after 6,000 years of mapping out these points along the body, we know when we introduce it to a certain area, we're bringing blood and oxygen here. As long as you're alive, you're going to have a response. And in that response, it starts a healing process. So I see, like, we get lost in words like chi. Like, what the heck is chi? Well, one of the analogous molecules that us Westerners might be familiar with is oxygen. Blood and oxygen are huge for healing, for your body's normal rhythms. And so when we introduce that stimulus into the body, we're bringing blood and oxygen to that area. And that helps to reduce pain. That helps to calm headaches. It helps to just really, it's profoundly anti-anxiety is what I've seen. Like people come in sort of like, I have all these things to do. And then I just needle. And then they're like, it's fine. I'll do it later. It's cool. Like it's like that fast. I'm sort of a conversationalist. You probably could catch. I hardly letting you talk, so thank you. Forgive me for that. But when I'm needling them, and I'm like, all right, I got to stop talking. Like they're good, so you can feel them entering that healing space. But it works with weight loss. It works with chronic pain. I get a lot as a chiropractor. I see a lot of stuff where people aren't getting better with their low back pain and neck pain, and we'll just drop some needles in along a couple channels there, and it starts something else. Like it's different than other forms of healing in that way too.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So everybody's different, obviously. Most people come to you with some kind of an issue or something they are aware of that they want to have worked on. And
That's right.
I think in my experience, there's also the benefit, like I don't have any chronic pain or anything really. So I do it sort of as a health benefit or preventative.
Yeah. Like a wellness sort of support.
A wellness
Love that.
Support. Yeah.
Love that. When people show up and they're like, I don't really have any problems, I put the pen down and I'm like, nice, let's go. Like, this is my favorite. I light up because when they have issues, I'll get them back to their optimum. That's no problem. It takes a little longer depending on the severity and the type of issue they have going on and their constitution. But if someone comes in and it's like, I don't have any issues, I just want to give it a go. Like, do whatever you got, doc. Like, I'll take it. For whatever reason, they're in the mental space of healing, and I can work with them and coach them and kind of help facilitate that. And I get them even better. And I think that there's an age-old adage of, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. And I see it all day. Like, someone's like, yeah, it's been bothering me for 7 months. And I'm like, well, why didn't you come in 7 months ago? Like, you're making my job harder.
Yeah, I think in some respects, it's not in our culture. We wait until we're sick or not feeling good or whatever. And people are always surprised to hear, I don't even have a doctor.
Yeah, good for you.
Well, I have a doctor. It's a natural doctor, but I don't have an MD. It's like, I don't need it because I stay healthy.
You eat really well. I know you to eat really well. That's huge. Like in all my studying, like I had taken about eight in school, both my degrees. I studied about 8 different courses in nutrition formally, and it's like everything, like rest, exercise, and diet are the 3 things we can control, and they're probably controlling about 70% of our health. I would put that number arbitrarily around there. And if you eat well, which I know you to do, like I said, then you don't need this stuff. You don't need a lot of this. If you're moving and you're eating well and you're getting good rest. So I'm constantly, like, I started coaching when I met some of these powerful spiritual teachers we know and love. And they said, you're not just a healer, you're a coach too, and you can help awaken. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I've been sending out these positive vibes on Facebook for a while, but I could see how this might work because I'm coaching my patients all day. I'm explaining, and doctor in Greek means teacher. It's like you fall out of a tree, you learn how to put your arm back together once it breaks and stuff. So it makes sense. It's sort of blending in. I've been having a hard time sort of figuring out exactly how to frame what I do, but I've realized at a deeper level, healing has less to do with like the modality you're doing and more about the way you're being in that context.
Oh wow, that's perfect. That's just like you're spot on, because in that regard, then you can basically meet all of your clients or patients where they are, and you have within you the ability to bring out the best in them, whether it's related to coaching, so I guess more mental, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the other healing, more physical. That's all.
Absolutely. And it's because when I met all you amazing beings, amazing spiritual teachers, they started helping me get clear on what it is I do in the world. How do I show up, and what do I have to offer? It's synthesized down to that list you summarized for nicely at the beginning. And what I've done is I've created what I've called the fifth dimensional healing, which is essentially playing off the words of the New Age movements of understanding that we're all vibrating higher. But I love working on the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, the physical, and the energetic. So I call it the fifth dimensional, because there's spiritual aspect of what I'm doing in my coaching and supporting people in their growth. There's obviously a mental with the coaching, the neuro-linguistic programming, sort of processing of issues in real time that comes up that I adore and love working with. Then there's the energetic, emotional energetic too, which are two similar ones, but a little different. And I see that really reflected in acupuncture and also Reiki and other powerful healing movements. And obviously there's the physical, which I do treat a lot often within the context of medical massage and also chiropractic adjustments. So it's neat how I've started to, as we evolve in the macro level, I've started to play with some of my skills and say, here's what I can offer. And this is all that kind of combined into one. And people are starting to be like, can I try one of those 5D things? What's that? What do you got going on over there? What is that? So I'm honored and humbled to share what occurs to me as a complete package of some of the things that I do.
Yeah, I think that you nailed it, because it is a complete package. It's like one-stop shopping in a way, that you can
Right.
you can either get people back to optimum health, or you can keep them healthy in many ways.
Right. And it's so true. Like we touched a little bit about wellness, and I'm creating the possibility of using my Wake Up to Your Mind page to sort of bridge a new conversation about wellness, because a lot of our culture, you're right, it's systemic, it's conditioned into our culture of like, oh, we have to wait till we're not well to get better. And I spent a lot of time coaching patients saying, no, get your butt in, like you'll feel better, we'll stay on it. If you get worse, it won't get as bad. And so that sort of preventative, holistic, conservative care that I'm offering, the way I describe it, it's like surgeons, they start to carry a hammer and everything starts to look like a nail. I don't knock them. I've sent several people to surgeons. There's a time and a place for everything. And I think being an EMT, I have an understanding of probably better than the average conservative, practitioner, that I understand there's a time and a place. If I joke, if you fall off a tree and your bone's sticking over there, like, acupuncture needles are not going to fix you. Like, go get the thing set. But once it's set and once they have it healing, what the first thing they do in China after a surgery is they drop needles in that day. And you don't have to do it right on the area, but you go above and below the channels and you get the energy moving and you start healing. They heal so much faster. So I'm fascinated by how I can weave this Eastern and Western into one. That's been sort of my big theory and what I'm working with. And wellness is sort of how it is the word, that the energy of that in my mind. I'm excited to share that too.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Well, there's some stuff that you can do remotely. I know, because you're in Rochester, but a lot of stuff you can do with people online or over the phone, or however.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm excited too. Yeah, my coaching page is called The Path to Your Highest Self. And I use that as a space to offer to clients and other people that are open to either distance healing within the context of Reiki. And also I'm expanding into what we call alchemical hypnotherapy. So it's accessing internal guides that we have present within us, archetypes, for example, that Jungian schools have studied in hypnosis for hundreds of years. We all have like an internal father, we all have an internal mother. We can access our higher self, or we can access spiritual teachers and guides within us. And it's so powerful, because I love to communicate this to people. I'm a Gemini, like 5 times over. So communication and chatting, I adore it. And we can do shamanic healing, as you know, so well.
Right.
Too. And I'm so present to how there is a lot that we can offer, even distant wise too.
Absolutely. So I'm going to share your info one more time because believe it or not, we're going to have to wrap up. I know this goes by so fast.
Yeah, we flew by. Yeah, and what I'll share too, real fast about Wake Up to Your Mind, if I may. It
Yeah.
started, I was actually watching a Buddhist monk of two different lineages share two things that stuck with me. First thing, he said, Buddhas love themselves so much that they can love others more. Like they fill themselves up with love, they can give that love out. And I was like, oh, neat. And then the second thing he said, there's no path for like the body to walk along, but there is a path for the mind. So I said, what can I do for other people's mind? And that's how it started.
That's awesome.
Well,
I think we're out of time, and I don't want to go over it because this was so wonderful. Thank you so much, Shripati.
Oh, thank you.
All right. We'll see you soon, hopefully. Take care. I'm going to stop the recording. Take care. Bye-bye.